Okay, good morning, 5:33, Wednesday morning, what day is today? It's
21st.
the third day is Shvat. Okay, and the 21st. Forgive my voice. I hope you can hear, and if you can't hear this, well, guess what? You just have to learn on your own. We thank Hashem for the chance to give for to learn, help do what we can do, bring Beis Hamikdash in this world, do mitzvahs. Thank Rabbi Smith for taking vacation and asking me just after I got a cold to go give 3 days worth of shiurim. I thank in advance anybody who volunteers to do tomorrow's shir or Friday's shir in the event my voice does not come through today. And we're learning the schus of all the Nishmas Kedoshim and recently passed people. I don't remember all their names. Abraham ben Ezra and Shimon something ben Abraham HaKohen. And we learned for four shleim for all those people in need with four shleimas, including the rabbi's father and anything else you can think of. And if there's anyone still left out there in some sort of shivya, they should be brought back. Okay.
Amen.
Are we good?
Amen.
Good. Amen. All right, Gufa. By the way, this stuff is loaded with goofas. We just have goofas all the time. And the rabbi once told us that Gufa is used in what's the Gufa, but not in Kiddush. Anyway, Gufa, I have some written here by Amara or whatever. Okay, so the text is self-stated. Chavite Kohen Gadol. Regarding the chavitin of the Kohen Gadol, the chavitin is a specific type of mincha that the Kohen Gadol would bring. I guess it was called minchas chavitin, and this was incumbent on him to bring twice a day. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Eno Kedosha Lechatzoin. Rabbi Yochanan says it cannot be sanctified in herbs. So what does that mean? According to Rabbi Yochanan, he's saying that, remember, making the whole mincha, it's a process. You take the mincha, the ephah, the certain amount, you pour it into from one bowl into a second bowl. Different kohanim are holding the bowls, and then the second bowl. At some point, oils mixed in with everything, or in certain minchas and others it's not. But at some point, the Kohen sticks his hand in the second bowl, grabs his with three fingers. This looks like a Hawaiian surface sign, grabs, maybe that's why it's called the Big Kahuna in Hawaii. There's some connection there.
Where do you think they got it from?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So grabs the allotted amount or set amount of dough, and then he kind of cleans it off with his thumb and finger so there's just that amount, and then he puts that into the third bowl, and that's brought onto the mizbeach. So that's kind of the process. We'll be going through that various times. But when you're bringing the dough to begin with, especially if this dough is going to be used for two minchas that day, one in the morning and one at night, do you bring all the dough the first time and then, like bring all the dough and put it in the bank account? Do you bring all the dough and put it in the specified bowl, and so it gets makdish, it gets sanctified to be used for mincha, even though you only be using half in the morning, half at night? Or does he bring half in the morning and then later on he'll bring half at night? So Rabbi Yochanan says it cannot be sanctified in halves, meaning according to Rabbi Yochanan, he brings it all to begin with in the morning. But Rav Elazar disagrees with him. Said mitach shekreva lechatzem kedosha lechatzem. Since it's offered in halves, it can be sanctified in halves. That sounds pretty reasonable. So Rav Elazar says, look, you're going to end up giving half of the time anyway. So sanctify it in halves. Bring half in the morning and then bring half at night. I mean, if you're going on a trip, to Disney World, and it's exactly uses your entire gas tank. All right? So you have a choice. You can fill up your entire gas tank and go halfway to Disney World and then turn around when you finish, come halfway back, and you've used up your tank. Or you can go on a half a tank, get there, fill up when you have to leave and get half a tank. I'm just saying, kind of thinking. Lahabdo, it's really not the same. Say Disney World's much better, but no. Anyway, no, it's Beis Hamikdash much better. The Gemara explains Rabbi Yochanan's opinion. Again, Rabbi Yochanan is the one who says that you can't split it. All right, Amar Rabbacha, they're going to bring Rabbacha, who said, my timer, the Rabbi Yochanan. What is the reason of Rabbi Yochanan? Amakra mincha machzisa. So he's bringing from the sentence which describes this mincha machzisa. The verse states a mincha, half of it, which implies hevi mincha b'chakach chotzehu. In other words, just from the plain language, kipshuto, it means he brought the entire mincha first, and then he took half of it. It didn't say that he brought half of a mincha. He said he brought a whole mincha. The Gemara questions Rav Elazar's dissenting view, who said you can bring half and half. One moment. They challenge Rav Elazar from a brisa. Remember the brisa that's on that shelf on the right side? It's all those mishnayos that never got sanctified within the Mishnayos proper and within nor attached to the Gemaras, but they were Mishnahs. So they're like lone soldiers, they're the lone Mishnayos. Chavite Kohen Gadol lo hayu bas chatzon. The chavitin of a Kohen Gadol are not brought initially in halves. This is what it states in the Brisa. Elamedin isaron shalom v'chotzeu. So this is showing you the opinion in that brisa that you bring the whole part to begin with, and then the Kohen, just like it's in the pasuk, splits it, uses half in the morning, and then we'll use half at night. And it was also taught in another brisa. But can you hear me? Okay, okay. He says okay. Ilu ne'amar mincha machzis. If it was stated half a mincha, Hayisi Omer maybe Chatzi Surin Mibeso Shachris or Makrif. But if the word verbiage was different, so I would have said the Kohen could bring half of an Isurin from his house in the morning and offer it, and the other half of an Isurin for his night at night and offer it. Isurin is a tenth. A tenth is like if you have a giant eighth or a giant bag of uh, to a flour, and then you have these little measuring cups. Each one's Isurin, which is the Esser, a tenth of this giant bag. That's the typical amount. So he says, can I bring half of it in the morning and half for the night? Tamid Lomar Baboker. So the Torah therefore states half of it in the morning, which indicates Machzeh Mishalem, who maybe he brings half of the complete offering. That is, he brings the complete measure and then divides it. Once again, this brisa shows that going against Rav Elazar, that you have to bring the whole amount in the morning, and then it can be split. So now we have two proofs against Rav Elazar, who said that you can bring half in the morning and half at night.
Rennie, excuse me. Does your source describe Isaron as a tenth?
As a what?
As a tenth. How does it translate Isaron?
I know, I just know it's a tenth. It's a tenth of an ephah. I know in my preparations I learned it somewhere. Are you reading somewhere where it says something else?
My memory, for whatever it's worth, is an Isaron is a measurement of about 43 eggs, and it is used in Menachos.
Maybe it's the same, the 43 eggs and a tenth.
A tenth of what?
A tenth of an ephah, the giant bag. I think the giant bag of flour
Uh-huh.
is split into 10 isarons.
I thought you said a tent.
Tenth. By the way,
Okay.
I can't raise my voice, so you really need to sit up here. Then you can't open your voice unless you want to read it.
Thank
Takes care.
you.
Takes care of that, lawyer. All right. All right. And I'm glad you asked that. If I say something wrong, just correct me. The Gemara answers the mitzvah. Rabbi Elazar would say that only for a mitzvah is it necessary to consecrate all the flour together. However, if it is two parts from the outset, it is sanctified. So the answer here is not that Rabbi Elazar disagrees actually with Rabbi Yochanan. In other words, it's better to do a whole in the morning, bring it like the pasuk said, and then split it. Use half then and then half later on. But what Rebbe Elazar is saying is that's the preferred for the mitzvah, like lechatchila at the beginning, or lishma for the best part mitzvah. It doesn't mean that if you do it the other way and bring half and then later on half, all right, from home to the base of Mikdash, it's not good. Because let's face it, you're putting the flour within a sanctified vessel. You bring it from a plain sackcloth flour bag at home. You're carrying your 50-pound bag or whatever it is, and then you're pouring it level into an Isaran. As soon as that gets in the Isaran, that's a gold vessel. That's a vessel that's already been sanctified by Moshe Rabbeinu. It's one of the clay kodesh, the holy vessels of the Beis Hamikdash. Once you put something in that, it's already sanctified. Okay, it's just like when you say, "I'm giving something for the Beis Hamikdash." All right, that's already for Bedek Habayis. Once you designate something for the Beis Hamikdash, it's designated. Period. All right. So what he's saying is, once you put half in, it's designated. Right? May not be the preferred way. You're really supposed to put full the mitzvah, but it's still okay. So the Gemara asks, Amalei Rav Gavia, Mikei Ksil Rav Ashi. Rav Gavia of Beit Ksil, that's a place he lived in. Like Beit Shemesh, this is Beit Ksil. All right, said to Rav Ashi, V'cha chuka ksiv ba. But the word statute is written in the context, indicating that the requirement for the entire mitzvah to be consecrated together is not just a mitzvah, but essential. So Rabbi Gavia is kind of putting a little twist in here. If you look at the pasuk says chok olam. This is a chok. It's not a mishpat. It's not something that you might reason out. Oh, this is the right amount. This is how I would do it. It's a chok. It's a God-given law. If it's God-given law, that's the way it's supposed to be done. So he's kind of challenging Rav Elazar to say, so who are you that says it's not? It's just the better way of doing the mitzvah, and I could still bring half. He's saying, no, it's not the better way of doing the mitzvah. It is the way of doing the mitzvah. All right, let's go weiter. So Rav Ashi replies, so what's he saying? He said to Rav Gavia, Lo nitzracha ela lavia shalom mibeso. That is relevant only to require the Kohen to bring it complete from his house. Once he has done so, however, it may be divided into halves and consecrated. It's a very interesting answer. He's saying, yeah, you have to bring the entire amount for the two halves that will be needed from your house. In other words, bring it to the Beis Hamikdash. But he's saying you could still just do half in the morning and half at night. You don't have to consecrate it all at that point as a whole, and then bring half on the as the korban, because it's already, like I said, sanctified best by. Just bring it, all right? Bring it, just bring it, whatever. Right? The Gemara notes an internal contradiction in the teachings of Rabbi Yochanan. Right? So let's see what that contradicts. It's very simple. Every time the Gemara brings a line, the line is a straight line. I mean, whether you hold one way or another way, for some reason, as soon as you get to the next line of Gemara, they're going to challenge the previous line. And that's why, by the way, don't think too much about any one line because it's always going to be challenged. This is a thinking process of Gemara. Because that's what it's all about in the Gemara and in Judaism. It's where our mind is at. All right, to be control of our emotions, and if we want to make something sanctified, if we want to cut out noise from the background, like clapping from I don't know who and shushing from I don't know.
That was
Take the soapbox away from me. Order in the court. Take the soapbox away. Or you will be in contempt of the court. But did Rabbi Yochanan really say this? Namely, that the entire Minchas Chavistin, again, this is the specific Mincha brought by the Kohen Gadol, must be consecrated together. But why? It was stated regarding one who brings an ordinary Mincha. So now we're going to try and bring an example from just a plain person bringing a Mincha. Challenge that which was just said about the Kohen Gadol bringing his Minchas Chavitin. So with a plain person, Hifrish Chatzi Saran, Daso Lahosif. Let's say one designates half an Isaran, so he pours into this Isaran sanctified vessel only half of the amount. But he plans on giving the rest of it. He just only poured in the rest. All right. Think of it as somebody who gives a donation and says, I want to donate $1,000, but I'm going to give you $500 now, and I'm going to give you $250 next week and $250 the week after. So I'm giving you the $1,000. I have to wait for my extra paychecks. All right. So his mental state is to give the 1,000. So the plain person who's going to give his mincha's told, I don't know, whatever kind of mincha it is, all right? Someone asked me yesterday, is mincha the same as davening mincha? No, it's two different minchas. No, because it's the same word. That person not hearing the shir. The same word. No, I mean, I even asked it to myself the first time because that's what I thought it was going to be about the korban that takes the place of mincha. So he says, Rav Amar Eno Kaddish. Rav says it's not sanctified in the case of the plain person who only brought half to start. Rav Yochanan Amar Kaddish. Rav Yochanan says it is Kaddish. All right? Now, this seems to contradict what Rav Yochanan said a few lines ago on the Kohen Gadol's Chavitin, where he said it had to be all or none, and that the Kohen Gadol couldn't bring the Chavitin in halves. So he says, Leilaf mechavitin. So let him derive from the Chavitin that an ordinary mincha too cannot be sanctified in halves. So that's a rhetorical question. We're saying, wait, if you're saying by the Kohen Gadol he can't bring in the halves, don't say the opposite. Just learn from one to the other. The Gemara suggests and immediately rejects a possible answer. If you're going to say that Rabbi Yochanan does not derive one topic from another, now, before we go further, you might say, what do you mean? That's how we learn Gemara. We've been doing this all along. You learn from one place, you bring from a baisa, you want to. So all of a sudden, you can say Rabbi Yochanan does learn from one place to another, but that's how we learned. So he's saying maybe Rabbi Yochanan, when it comes to menachos and zvachim, when it comes to sacrifices, because their hooks, their laws, this is how it's done here, this is how it's done here, this is specifically the kamitza and all these different things, all right? You can't learn from one to another. Because each one might have totally different chok din. So that's what he's trying to say is don't. So not then general, he doesn't learn one from another. He says, so now they can say, but that's not true. V'hamar Rabbi Yochanan. Did Rabbi Yochanan say, Shlamim sheshachat behechal ksherin? Shlamim that was slaughtered inside the sanctuary is valid. All right. Now, normally the shlamim is sacrificed in the azara, in the courtyard. All right. Dechti b'shachtu Pesach Ohel Moed. So Pesach Ohel Moed means he was in front of the Heichal. Just remember, you've got the azara here. All right, where there's the big Mizbeach, all right? There's the north side of the Mizbeach. There's the south side of the Mizbeach. The south side has the ramp, all right? Then you've got north, south, east is here, west is there. So you've got the southwest corner of the Mizbeach where the blood goes down the two little holes, things like that. You've got this little wide entrance, not very much, right before going into the Heichal. What's in the Heichal? So like two things in the Heichal. The far end is Kodesh Kedoshim, and only the Kohen Gadol can go in there. And the larger chamber in front of that, right in front of the tent going in, has three things. It has the menorah, it has, which is towards your left, it has the towards the west, it has north, whether in there, it's on the western side, I believe. It has the lechem apanim, the 12 showbreads, which is a little bit towards the right, and then it has the misbach ketoris, the spice altar. All right, I think that's right.
Oh, that's a great tour.
If I'm wrong,
Thank
correct.
you very much. You can be a tour guide.
Okay. It's funny you say that because only a couple months ago I went to the tunnels tour, and
That was amazing.
That was really
they
good,
go
right?
over that.
I mean, he's so good.
So super cool. The only thing I took the tour in Hebrew
Oh,
because that was available at the time slot. So
gosh, a
I
coach.
still understood what's going on.
Kodesh.
All right. So going back to the Shlomim, it says that the Shlomim is supposed to be here in front of the tent, in front of the Heichal, meaning on the side of the big Mizbeach, all right? And Shlamim, whether it's the north side or the south side, I think it can be either side, if I'm not mistaken. I always get confused which ones, only the Kodesh Kodeshim ones could be on the north, but Kodesh Kodshe Kolim, the not so holy sacrifices could be on the north side or the south side of the where it's slaughtered. Obviously, can only bring you up on the south side. You have to go up the ramp. All right, south side of Chicago.
Woo!
All right, but
South Rise again.
yes, save your Dixie cups. All right, the Ushchato Pesach Ohel Me'el, but it's not the same south it once was. It's a better south.
Amen.
All right, Dechsid, for it was stated in regard to Shlomim, Shachatu Pesach Ohel Moed, he shall slaughter it at the entrance. All right, Shlo Yeh Tafel Chamo Miikar. He says, and there's a principle which states that a secondary item, meaning in this case the courtyard, the Azara, should not be more consequential than the primary. That makes sense. So if it can't be more consequential, then certainly you could do it technically in the Heichal also, if you want. If you wanted, they'll do it, but he could have brought it in there. I think that's what he's saying. Thus, we see that Rav Yochanan derives the laws of one topic, the sanctuary, from the laws of another courtyard. So the whole reason we brought this, because we had just stated that Rav Yochanan doesn't learn one thing from another. And now we brought this as a proof that what do you mean? I'm bringing you a brisa that shows he does learn one thing from another. So why does he not derive the laws of ordinary menachos, but a plain person may bring from the laws of the Minchas Chavitin, which was we just learned the law of the mincha that the Kohen Gadol would bring twice a day, and that's how we started off. What's allowed and what's not allowed? Can he split it or not? The Gemara answers, Dato ahosif shani. It is different where one's intent from the outlet is to add the missing portion. Only in that situation does Rabbi Yochanan deem the original half sanctified. Again, so we're answering this is what we said before, like with the donation. When he says, I'm giving $1,000, but I only have 500 now, so it looks like I'm only giving half. But I plan on giving the rest. I just have to go get the paycheck next week and the week after. So that means he never planned on just giving half. He planned on giving a full. All right. He just put half in at the moment. So only in that situation does Rabbi Yochanan deem the original half is sanctified. In the case of the Minchas Chavitin, by contrast, Yonah did not have such an intent. Right. So he's saying when it was by the Kohen, it was a different story. Kohen Gadol. Gemara cites support for this answer. Again, it's funny because a few lines ago we said you don't learn one thing from another, according to Rav Yochanan, and here we're back to showing you how we can bring support from one place to another. This Hanya, because it was learned in another brisa. Back to the right shelf, the lone soldier brises, that Mishnahs that have no Gemara that fathered them. So they're just lone Mishnahs, and we call them brises. Malayim, the Torah states regarding the vessels in which the mincha offerings were sacrificed. I guess we're talking about just a plain person's sacrifice. Both of them filled with fine flour, mixed with oil for mincha. All right. So remember, there's different types of minchas. Ones that require the flour mixture, and that's what we said at the beginning. He brings the flour in one bowl or sack. He pours it in. Kohen's holding the second sanctified vessel. He puts it there, then pours the oil in. This and that. The kamitza is done. Sometimes the kamitza is done without without the oil. Can't do kamitza without flour. The kamitza is the grabbing for the flowers. Ein milayim ela shleimim, klomar she'eino kadosh ad sheyeh isaron shalom. This use of the word filled is interpreted only in its meaning complete. Each vessel contains a complete measure, which teaches that a partial measure cannot be sanctified. Right, so this seems to be a little challenging. Let's see. When Scripture states that the vessels donated by each nasi were filled with flour for mincha offerings, it does not mean that they were filled to capacity, but they each contained the full measures of the precise isaron increments. Okay, so if they were supposed to bring an isaron, and then they bring in Isaron and they pour it into a larger vessel. That could be a larger vessel. So that vessel is not full, but it has what's needed, the ingredient, half a cup of flour. All right, whatever it is, a cup of flour. Right, for Amar Rabbi Yossi said, Emasai, when does a sacred vessel not sanctify a partial vessel? So is there a case where it doesn't do it? Bisman shein da'ato lahosif. He says when one does not intend to add to the measure in the vessel until it is complete. Aval bisman shedato lahosif, but if one intends to add to the measure until it is complete, rishon kodesh, each successive amount that is put in the vessel is sanctified immediately. So Rav Yochanan is supported by Rav Yossi's ruling that a partial isaron of flour can become sanctified in a kli meaning a sanctified vessel, provided that the owner intended on adding the missing amount, again, like paying the whole donation. Rav, who rules that it remains unsanctified if the owner had such intent, disagrees with Rav Yossi. So what's new? We always have people that disagree. All right, let's go weiter. trying to keep my voice just to get through the share at least. All right. Rav Bechavitin Kaman Sfirale. And with whom does Rav agree in the dispute between Rav Yochanan and Rav Elazar regarding the Chavitin? So who does Rav disagree with? Rabbi Elazar, if Rav agrees with Rav Elazar, excuse me, the question was, who does he agree with? If he's agreeing with Rav Elazar, who rules that Chavitin can be sanctified in halves, that's how we started off. Leilef mechavitin, he should derive from Chavitin that an ordinary mincha can be sanctified in halves. We said that before. The Chitema Rav Milton in Milton lo Yalav, and this is repetitive what we said before. And if you argue that you can't learn one from another, meaning that you can learn the law of playing mincha by a yachid from the Kohen Gadol's minchas chavitin, shekein matzina belechem apanim. So he's gonna wait. No, I just jumped here. Yalev, I says that's not true, and he's going to show you why you can't say that. Rav, didn't Rav say mincha kedosha below shemen? He says there are types of minchas that don't have any oil. He says, and Rav himself said that the mincha can be sanctified without oil. Right? Shekei matzina belechem apanim. That's the lechem apanim. It doesn't need any oil. Wait, no. That's below Levana. No. Wait. Was that Lechem Apanim is just the one? Lechem Apanim doesn't need oil. Okay, so that's one type of mincha, which is just flour without oil. And now the second type, below
that one includes Levana. No oil, but yes, Levana.
Where's it say yes, Levana?
39, Rashi.
Oh, okay. But it does have Levana. So he's excluding one thing. Below Levana, where's an example of one that is without Levana? Shekei matina b'minchas nechasim. So we find that with the libation mincha. All right? The libation mincha, it includes oil. For the Torah states, there's a couple of days, oil. But that one's lacking Levana. I was looking for that because I knew you were going to come at me with the same thing. So you can have 2 out of the 3 ingredients with no problem. All right. Okay, and now, what about if it's missing both? Below shemen or below levana, where there's only one ingredient, just plain old flour. That's by the mincha of a sinner. It does not contain oil nor frankincense. It is evident from these analogies that Rav does not derive the laws of one topic of sacrificial law from another. Why then does he not reason that just as the chavitin can be sacrificed in halves, can other menachos? So can other menachos. So he's really hung up on this about the fact that the Kohen Gadol can do it one way, but the plain person can't. So one moment. I mean, obviously, one's a Kohen Gadol, and one's not. If the queen had, you know what, she'd be king. All right, the Gemara, therefore,
Family share.
that's why I said, you know what.
Oh, that doesn't make it different.
The Gemara,
Sorry about that. I mean,
the Gemara therefore
crazy.
Concludes, Al Koch, you need some excitement. This is so dull for my monotone
Oh my
voice.
God, this is exciting.
Al Koch Rav Karabi Yochanan Sfiralei. You are compelled to say the Rav agrees, Rav Yochanan, who rules that the Chavitin cannot be sanctified in halves. Rav derives from there, the same applies also to the Menachos. No, it's his opinion. The Gemara quotes the full text of the ruling of Rav that was cited above. So I think this is going to be just repetition. Kufa, the text itself stated, Amarav. This is where Rav said, Mincha Kedosha, a mincha can be sanctified below shemen, all right, without oil. Shekei matin b'lechem apanim, because that's how it is b'lechem apanim. Below Levana, if it's missing the Levana, Shekei matin b'minchas nechasim, because that's the way it is, minchas nechasim. And still, below Shem and below Levana, it can be sanctified without both. Shekei matin b'minchas chote. So that was all repetition, because that's how the sinner's mincha is. The Shem and Ulevana, Ladshe, high below, the high below high. Wait. Shem and Ulevana, Kodshe high, below high, high, below high. Sounds so fun. It's high without high, high below high. Right. Furthermore, the oil and the levana from Mincha can each be sacrificed on their own. Shemen, the oil can be sacrificed without levana or flour. See, now we're even breaking it from its molecules down into its atoms. Or is it the other way around? Atoms into its molecules. Whatever's like. No, atoms would be down into protons, neutrons, electrons, and all those other little things in there.
You're the doctor. You should know this.
I don't really make it. Shekei matzina belog shemen shel mitzvah. Lavona is when do we use just plain frankincense? Shekei matzina lavana haba bizvach. So we find with the lavana that comes in the spoons. Oh, that's talking about the lavona that's in the vazichin, that's in the showbreads. There's these 2 scoopfuls of lavona, frankincense, which makes the whole thing allowed to eat, at the right time, the 6th hour of the day, we'll learn it doesn't need anything else for it to become Kaddish. It's Kaddish on its own. All right. Did I just jump to the next page, or do I have a line that I missed?
Doing great.
Because it jumped on me. Am I on the next page?
Yeah, it's about to switch to be.
But did I miss some words on the end of the page? Lord Shemin, high below Kadshe high, below high. Shemin Shkei Matina below, Shemin Shel Mitzara. Levana Shkei Matina belevana haba bezzachin. Okay, Rav Chanina Amar, that's Rav. Rav Chanina says, Lo zo kiddush below zo. No, this one can't be sanctified without the other. Below zo kiddush below zo. This one can't be without the other. Rabbi Chanina, and according to Rabbi Chanina, Isara and Lama Nimshach. All right, why was the Saran vessel anointed? The purpose of anointing a vessel was to give it the ability to effect sanctification. That the Saran vessel was used only to measure flour without any other ingredient. And Rav Chanina maintains that flour cannot be consecrated on its own. The Gemara answers, the minchas chote. It was anointed only for the minchas chote, for the sake of the one mincha that only contains flour, and that's why Rav Chanina agrees that flour alone is sanctified. Okay, so if in case you wondered, well, why did all those Isarans have to be sanctified to begin with? Because there wasn't one case, the sinner's mincha, where that alone was sanctified. There was no oil, there wasn't another bowl, there was no lavana. V'log lama nimshach, and why was the log anointed? This vessel was used only to measure oil. So that's again another measuring vessel, but it's like the measuring cups you have in your kitchen. You have one that says a pint, half pint, a gallon. That's for liquids like this, and then you might have one that you put on your scale. All right, for pounds. That's for weights. All right, so many grains, like a jewelry scale. It's not measuring liquids. You have liquid gold. I mean, sometimes, but it's quartz. Let's not go there. Okay. The Gemara answers, the log shel mitzvah. It was anointed for the case of the log of oil that was used to purify a mitzvah. And if you remember, when Mitzvah, someone who had leprosy, was finally purified by the Kohen, he went through this really weird process where the Kohen, he brought a sacrifice. The Kohen took the blood from the sacrifice. They poured it in his left hand, and the Kohen went and put it on his finger, and he touched the guy's thumb, and he touched his toe, and then I think he touched his forehead, whatever it was, the process. And then afterwards, he went and he poured oil on the guy's head. So you needed a vessel that was holding the oil, and that's why where you see that a vessel alone could have oil in it that's sanctified without a mincha, because there's no mincha there. All right. For Av Shmuel, all right, Gemara supports support for Rav's view that flour can be sanctified in its own, bringing from Shmuel gave a chiddush. All right, it's interesting because usually Rav and Shmuel, they're the people who are arguing with each other. And here we bring a raya, a support for Shmuel for Rav's view. Vav Shmuel Savar la Rav. Shmuel also agrees with this ruling of Rav, so he doesn't disagree with him this time. Why? Because we learned in the Mishnah. Now we're on the left side of the shelf because we're learning from a Mishnah that's found in another Gemara. That's in Gemara Svachim. Sounds familiar. We just finished that one. 88a. I don't know that by heart. I'm just reading it. Kli halach mekachin halach. All right, vessels designated for fluids, sanctify fluids. Umidas hayabesh mekachin es hayabesh. So in general, like is to like. Like is to like. But like is not to unlike. All right? Meaning that if the vessel was made to sanctify liquids, right? Which is usually those cone-shaped vessels, and the Kohen would have to hold that because you couldn't put it down. That's probably why it was made cone-shaped, so that the Kohen would have to hold it. And that's the one, remember, where he dipped his finger in, where we learned that the other day, all right? And you went straight down because that was the way, there's no tipping charge here. You got the most blood, hopefully with no problem, all right? In general, that type of vessel will not sanctify a dry object like plain flour. For Amashua, but Shmuel said in that case, below midas hayavesh mekachin es halach, and those that are measuring vessels for dry items like dry weight, like flour, would not sanctify oil or liquid vessels, but he says they taught this only in regard to measures. But Shmuel did have a caveat to his agreement with Rav. He said that there is a silver bowl and only one silver bowl, and both of them filled with fine flour mixed with oil for mincha. All right? Shneihem Maleim, that's the pasuk. You had to fill both these bowls with fine flour, which was also mixed with oil to make a mincha. So he's saying these basins, which sanctify solids, refer to dry flour, but what is he saying? In other words, they were the type of bowls that normally sanctify liquids. But in that case, putting flour in them, the flour got sanctified because this was specific exclusions to the rule according to Shmuel. All right, let's go weiter.
Dual
Okay.
purpose.
What?
Dual
Dual purpose, very well said. The Gemara objects to Shmuel's proof from the verse. Amalei Ravacha midiftei Ravina, as Ravacha, who came from a place called Diftei, said to Ravina, Mincha lachahi, but the mincha offering mentioned in the verse is moist, for it's described as mentioning as having been mixed with oil. So if it's moist and has oil in it, why Shmuel is kind of asking a question? Why do you say that I learned from there? Shmuel saying it that this oil vessel made for oils, also can magically sanctify dries. He says that wasn't really a dry goods because it had oil in it. If you look in the pizza shop when they're mixing dough, it's got oil. I think it's got oil, but more. You watch a kid making what's that goop at home? Oh, it's something they make this stuff.
Oatmeal.
No,
Play-Doh.
you don't have little kids. Play-Doh.
Like slime.
Go back. Slime. Thank you.
Woo!
Watch a kid make slime. All right. What a mess. All right. They start off with solids and they mix all these liquids and this and that. It really looks kind of liquidy and it's
We're behind
goopy.
we're behind the stuff.
You're way behind. There's nothing I can do about that. Unless you want to volunteer to do the daf tomorrow. I prepare tomorrow's. So if you're quiet, I'll continue. Amalei. He said to Ravacha, Lo nitzcha el yavei sheba. He's saying, nah, even though you're right, you might look at it as oil. The reality is there's still little clumps, tiny clumps of dry within this, all right? And therefore, you need this verse that allows this uh, vessel, which is made, this vessel, let's say, which is made to hold liquids. I'm not going to show and pour out my tea, all right, to Mekadesh, to sanctify the dry in it, all right, because in the way I always remember it, and thank you for the hot chocolate you gave me yesterday. It's Lebensburg. He really cares for a friend. He gave me a hot chocolate packet. He gave me a dry packet. Now, what am I supposed to do with a dry pack? I had to add hot water, right? And then you stir it, all right? But sometimes, no matter how much you stir, you get to a point you say, "Oh, what was that?" And you realize there's this little bunch of dry stuff that just capsuled itself off in the mixture, and that happens. That there's sometimes little. It's kind of almost the very similar to the 18-minute rule with matzah that don't go over 18 minutes because it might have little chametz in it on the 18 minutes, something like that. But we're not learning Pesachim today. And I don't really remember all of it. An alternative answer. So one answer is there still may be dry packets in there, and therefore they have to be sanctified.
The Lavona is dry also.
What?
The frankincense is dry.
Oh, the frankincense. So not any packets of pieces of flour has to be dry. We don't know if the flour is all wet. Doesn't have flour.
Yeah, the corn just says the frankincense, but what you're saying, yeah, makes sense too. Maybe
Yes.
both.
So I don't know. I'm just saying. Let me see what it says here. It was possible for the flour and oil that comprised the mincha offering to be mixed perfectly. There were inevitably pockets, I'm reading here, of dry flour that remained untouched by the oil, yet the basin sanctified the entire offering, all right, including the dry flour. Okay, so that's two things. All right, but remember, not everything, maybe was frankincense needed in this type of mincha, which is shnayim, which was a double two bowls. Maybe that one didn't need frankincense. What are you showing? I can't read that without my glasses. What is that, font of two? What are you showing me?
Are you showing them?
The note that
I can't read
I
that.
can't read.
Oh, so you read it. Let me hear. God gave you lips. Let me hear.
Whoa.
the section beginning with the
Don't worry about that.
You sick like
He's
me?
trying to help out.
Louder.
the section beginning with the phrase that is the frankincense until the end of the next paragraph, Shmuel holds that this substance may be sanctified without that one. Is missing from many versions of the Gemara. Certainly, the Gemara reference to the frankincense not easily understood in this context. Some commentaries explain that the Gemara is referring to those parts of the flour that remain dry even after oil is mixed into it, as as there will necessarily remain small granules of flour that
Grains, probably grains.
no
Yeah, it's a different word, but I think they're talking about
Okay.
grains.
that did not come in contact with the oil. Rabbeinu Gershom Mayor, accordingly, Shmuel is claiming that just as the bowl sanctifies the dry parts of the meal offering, so too it sanctifies the flour that contains no oil at all.
Okay, so
Yeah, that part is
basically,
taken out. Yeah, some of the
yeah,
a
it's
difference
not
in
in the, it's
Gersa.
not in Gemara, but it makes sense too. So we have both opinions. The bottom line is that the bowl that's made to sanctify liquids can sanctify solids as well. Let me hurry up quickly because I have to go downstairs. Kufa, the text itself stated, Amar Rav Eliezer, Mincha shekamtza be'echav Torah, a mincha whose komets was sanctified in the sanctuary as opposed to in the courtyard is still valid. For we find this in regard to removal of the spoons of the Vona from the table of the sanctuary. Let's stop here, and we'll go over that tomorrow because we're going to draw an analogy between, just like we previously brought an analogy that the shechita, the first part of bringing a korban that's meat, all right, is similar. When does it become a korban? When you shechit it, when you when you shech. Don't tell me shech is shech. Tell me the English word.
Whoa,
When you
sorry, Hillel.
what's the English word for shech?
Oh,
Slaughter. Slaughter. When you slaughter it,
Oh.
religiously slaughter. I ask you what shech, you tell me
Goodness.
Thank you. Yeah. But
Thank you.
the kmitza is that equivalent, all right? The kmitza, that's when they do the kmitza on the mincha, that's when everything starts. And and we'll learn tomorrow, when does everything start? With the showbreads, when they remove, or the time comes to remove the frankincense. So we find that there are analogous periods of at what point everything becomes holy, that things can then commence. If you learn today with my voice, hopefully my voice will be there tomorrow. If not, I already prepared 9, but prepared 10. Thank you very much. Okay. Bye-bye.
Amazing job, Dr. Stein. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Right? Not just a pretty face,
Good day.
Doctor. She's got a brain in that head.